I was doing that thing we all do, maybe once a year, usually before a big road trip or when you've lost something really important.
The trunk clean out.
The trunk clean out,
Yeah.
exactly. And honestly, cleaning is a strong word. It was more of an archaeological dig.
Oh, yeah. The layers of forgotten hobbies.
Total graveyard of good intentions. I found a gym bag from like 2019, some questionable grocery bags, and then buried right at the bottom, I found it. That long, thin, orange plastic box.
The rattle.
Yes, the rattle of neglect. It's been back there since the day I got the car. And I had this thought, I've literally never opened this box. I know what it is conceptually. It's a warning triangle.
Uh-huh.
But for me, and I'm guessing for a huge number of people listening, it's just trunk furniture. It's just there.
That is such a good way to put it. But, it's a sleeper agent. That's what we're talking about today.
A sleeper agent for survival, apparently. Because our research today says that dusty plastic box is a vital line of defense.
It's not an exaggeration at all. It looks like a cheap piece of plastic. But when you look at the accident data, the safety protocols,
Yeah.
it transforms. It's the only thing between a minor inconvenience and a life-threatening catastrophe.
Life-threatening is a heavy way to kick off a deep dive. But the more I read, the more I realized how casually I've treated this.
We all do.
So the mission for today is simple, but it's critical. We are going to master the art of visibility. And we're not just talking about, hey, put a sign on the road.
No, absolutely not. That's how people get hurt.
We're talking about the surprisingly specific math of where to put it, the pro moves with multiple triangles, which I didn't even know was a thing, and what to do if you open that box and find nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's about controlling the chaos. Because when you break down on a highway, chaos is the default state. You're at the mercy of every other driver.
So let's start with the thing itself. I mean, we all know what it looks like, but the source material calls it all these different things. Safety triangle, emergency triangle. But one really stood out, survival triangle.
That one gets your attention, right? It frames it correctly.
It sounds like a bad action movie, but it gets to the core function. What's its actual job? Because I always just thought it was to say, hey, I'm broken down.
That's part of it, but that's a passive way to think about it. The source defines its purpose much more actively. It's an alerting device designed to buy time. The key phrase they use is to give other drivers time to slow down and steer clear. You're communicating. You're forcibly buying yourself a safety buffer from people who are distracted, tired, you name it.
It's interesting you say distracted, because a car on the shoulder is just a shape. In the dark, it's a shadow. But a triangle, that's a symbol, it's language.
Exactly. It triggers a specific cognitive response. A car on the side of the road could be anything. A triangle means hazard. It cuts through the noise.
So when do you actually use it? I mean, the obvious one is a breakdown, right? A flat tire, smoking engine.
That's the big one. But the sources list others. Accidents, obviously.
Yeah.
But also just emergency stops. Maybe a passenger is sick. And this one's important. Low visibility. Fog, heavy rain, snow. Even if your car is fine, if you're stopped in those conditions, you are effectively invisible.
That's a terrifying thought. Invisible in 2 tons of steel.
It happens. A gray car on gray asphalt in the fog just vanishes.
Okay, so we know why we need it. But here's where it got really surprising for me. If you'd asked me yesterday, where do you put it? I would have said, I don't know, walk back 10 paces.
And you would have been putting yourself in extreme danger.
Apparently. The deep dive materials get into what I'm calling the geometry of safety. There are golden numbers here.
There are. It's not guesswork.
So let's break it down. Normal road, regular speeds, where does it go?
On a normal road, the source is very specific. At least 45 meters behind your vehicle.
45 meters. Okay, I'm trying to picture that. That's not just a few steps.
No. It's about 147 feet. Think of it in car lengths, maybe 10 or 12 car lengths back.
12 car lengths. Wow, I definitely would have put it at like 2.
Most people do. They walk to the back of the car, take 3 steps, and drop it.
But it's useless.
It does almost nothing. At 50 miles an hour, a driver covers that distance in a blink. You haven't warned them, you've just given them a target.
Okay, so 45 meters on a normal road. What about the highway, the interstate? That's where the real fear kicks in.
And for good reason. The speeds are higher, so the reaction time has to be longer. On a highway, that distance more than doubles. It has to be at least 100 meters back.
100 meters. Wait, that's a football field. You want me to walk an entire football field away from my car on a highway?
Yes.
That sounds scary in itself. That's a hike.
It feels like a hike, and it is scary.
Yeah.
But let's look at the physics. A car at 70 miles an hour is moving at over 100 feet per second.
Wow. Okay.
So if you put the triangle 100 feet back, which feels far, You've given the driver less than 1 second of warning. 1 second to process, check their mirror, signal, and merge.
That's no time at all.
It's zero time. By putting it 100 meters, 328 feet back, you're giving them 3 to 4 seconds of warning. You're not marking the car, you're marking the reaction point.
You're engaging their brain way, way down the road.
Exactly. You're buying space for their brain to catch up with their eyes.
And there was a note about positioning, too. It's not just on the side of the road.
Right. It needs to be on the same side as your vehicle, ideally in the center of the lane you're blocking.
In the lane? That sounds terrifying.
Well, if your car is stuck in the lane, the warning has to be in the lane. If you put it on the safe, grassy shoulder, you're sending a confusing signal. Drivers look at the triangle on the grass and drift right into your car.
Got it. Place the warning where the danger is. But what about hills or curves?
This is a critical point. The standard distances are minimums for a straight line of sight. If your car breaks down just over the crest of a hill,
Oh, I see where this is going. So I put it 100 meters back, but that's still hidden by the hill.
it's useless. The driver comes over the crest, and bam, there's the triangle and your car at the same time.
So what's the rule then?
The rule is you have to place the triangle before the blind spot. You walk back until you are visible to oncoming traffic, even if that's 150 or 200 meters.
Right.
The triangle has to be the first thing they see.
It really forces you to think like the other driver.
It's an exercise in empathy that keeps you alive.
Okay, but this brings up a paradox. We're talking about walking a football field back on a highway. That sounds incredibly dangerous.
It is dangerous. Being a pedestrian on a highway is one of the most dangerous places you can be, which is why the source outlines a very strict protocol, an order of operations.
Okay, walk us through it. My car dies, I pull over. What's step one?
Step one, before you even open the door,
Yeah,
hazard lights on. That is your first immediate layer of defense.
hazards on.
Step two, if you have one, and you really should, put on a high visibility vest
Inside the car.
inside the car. You want to be glowing the second your foot hits the pavement. A dark coat at night just makes you a shadow.
That's a great point. Put the armor on before the battle.
Exactly. Step three is exiting safely. If you can, get out on the side away from traffic. So climb over the console and use the passenger door.
I'd feel so silly doing that, climbing over the gear shift.
Feels silly. It's better than having your door ripped off by a truck. Never open your door into a live lane of traffic.
Okay, I'm out. I'm on the grass. Now for the walk.
The walk. You take your triangle and you walk back your 100 meters, but you do it as far off the shoulder as possible. On the grass, behind the barrier.
Don't walk on the white line.
Never walk on the line.
Yeah.
And try not to turn your back to traffic. Then, when you get to your spot, you deploy it. Make sure it's stable. The wind from a passing truck can knock it right over.
Oh yeah, the wind wake is huge.
It is. So make sure it's stable, maybe weigh it down with a rock, and then you return to your vehicle with the same caution.
It's a whole tactical operation.
It really is. And the source has a big warning here. Be extremely careful not to put yourself in danger. In the stress of the moment, people get tunnel vision. They focus on the triangle and forget the 18-wheeler.
Right, you get task fixated.
Which can be fatal.
So we've got the basics down, but I love the advanced tactics part of these deep dives. The source says sometimes one triangle isn't enough.
Yes, this is the expert tier. The text explicitly says using more than one is often recommended for enhanced safety.
I feel like most people barely have one, but assuming we're prepared, when do we use the double triangle setup?
A few key scenarios. If you're towing a long trailer, for example, one close to the trailer, one further back. It helps define the scale of the obstruction.
That makes sense.
Another is just bad weather. Creates a graduated warning. But the one that really blew my mind was for two-way roads.
Oh, this was wild.
Yeah. Imagine a country road, one lane each way. You break you're hazard to the people behind you, obviously.
Right.
But you're also a hazard to the people coming towards you. Because the cars behind you are going to pull out into the oncoming lane to get around you.
Oh, wow. You could cause a head-on collision just by sitting there.
Exactly. So the pro move is one triangle behind your car and one triangle in front of your car.
I would never, in a million years, have thought to walk forward to place a triangle.
It warns the oncoming traffic. It tells them, slow down. Something's happening in the other lane. Be prepared for someone to swerve into your path. It protects everyone.
That's a total game changer. And there was a strategy for highways too, right? With even bigger distances.
Yes. This is for the high-speed, multi-lane roads. You place the first triangle 200 to 300 meters back. That's almost 1,000 feet.
1,000 feet.
And then you place a second triangle halfway between that one and your car.
So it creates a visual countdown.
Precisely. It's psychological engineering.
Oh.
The driver sees the first one way back. They start paying attention. They see the second. They start to merge. By the time they see you, they're already in the next lane.
You're basically building a temporary traffic control system out of plastic.
You are.
Okay, so we've covered the physics, the tactics. What about the law? Is this required, or are we just being extra safe?
It completely depends on where you are. In the European Union, it's generally mandatory. You must carry one. You must use it.
They're usually stricter about that stuff.
They are. In the U.S. and Canada, it's more of a patchwork. Commercial trucks, they almost always have to have them. Federal law.
Right, you always see truckers putting them out.
For personal cars, it's often in the should category, not the must. But if you cause an accident because you weren't visible, that's a tough conversation to have.
Right, and Australia.
Strongly recommended.
Yeah.
But the laws of physics are the same everywhere.
True. Now, what about the city? If I break down downtown, do I really need to walk 45 meters back past a Starbucks to put up a triangle?
The urban question.
Yeah.
Feels a little awkward.
Feels silly.
But the source is clear. Yes, a stationary car is still a hazard, but the distance shrinks. In urban areas, they say 30 to 50 meters. You just have to account for the city blocks.
Okay, that's more manageable.
And there are exceptions. If you can push the car into a parking lot, or if police show up immediately with their lights, then the need is reduced.
Okay, so we've arrived at my favorite part, the MacGyver section.
Always a good one.
Let's be real. Someone is listening right now and realizing I don't have one. What can you do if you're stranded and the box is empty?
The source has a good list for this. The first alternative, road flares.
Old school.
Very effective, though, especially at night. They burn bright, they create smoke, they scream danger.
Okay, what's next?
Reflective clothing. We mentioned the vest, but even if you just have a neon running shirt in your gym bag, you can even hang it on the back of the open trunk lid.
Make the car wear the vest?
Pretty much. Then there's the hood signal.
The universal sign of my day is ruined.
Exactly. Popping the hood is a universally understood signal. It also changes the car's silhouette. It stops looking like a parked car and starts looking like an obstacle.
That's a good point.
And then you can get creative. Use any reflective item. An emergency space blanket is incredibly reflective.
Oh, the foil ones.
Yeah. Tie that to your antenna. Or even a bright white t-shirt tied to the door handle.
Like a surrender flag.
Anything that flutters and catches the light. But, and this is important, if you don't have the triangle, your car is less visible. That means you are in more danger.
So don't try to be the human warning triangle.
Never. Do not stand in the road waving your arms. Get yourself and your passengers off the road, behind a barrier, and wait for help. Your life is worth more than your car's bumper.
Never be the human triangle. That's the quote of the day. Okay, let's recap the mission. The numbers. Normal road.
45 meters back. About 12 car lengths.
Highway.
100 meters back. Minimum. Think football field.
And if there's a hill or a curve?
Forget the numbers. Walk back until you're visible before the blind spot.
Protocol. Hazards first. Vest on. Exit away from traffic.
And for the pros, carry two. One front, one back on two-way roads.
It's amazing how much science is in that little plastic thing. I am definitely checking my trunk today.
It's worth a check.
Yeah.
And seriously, check for the high-vis vest.
I think I have one. Maybe?
See, I think so isn't good enough when it's pitch black on the side of the interstate.
That's the takeaway. Listeners, check your trunks today. Don't wait until the emergency to find out you're unprepared.
And I'll leave you with this final thought. We spend so much time learning how to drive safely, how to handle the car when it's moving.
Sure, that's what driving is.
But the source material shows that your safety is just as dependent on how you manage the car when it stops. The moment your engine fails, you are no longer a driver. You're a traffic obstacle. And the real question is, are you prepared to communicate with traffic when you can no longer move with it?
That's a powerful way to look at it. Driving doesn't stop just because the car does. Well, on that note, thanks for diving deep with us today. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Safe travels, everyone.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.